Hello and welcome to Hawk TV News Online. I'm your host, Josh Chanley, and I'm joined by Celine Powell and Aaron Mulligan. Um, Tonight, we are going to be talking about some somber news. There is an unfortunate rise in attacks on Asian Americans. This is a result of the coronavirus. Uh, People have been racially profiled. They've been viewed as spreaders of the virus simply because they're Asian. And it's a great tragedy that in 2021, there are still prejudices surrounding uh, people based off of their ethnicity. And the fact that uh, people are being physically attacked, whether it be with bats or with fists or being spat on, it's really upsetting. Our first story that we'll be talking about this evening has to do with the chairman of Westchester, Ohio, Lee Wong. Aaron, would you mind telling us about that story?
So Lee Wong was in a council meeting, and he wanted to make it clear that of his opinions on what was happening lately. And so he spoke about how he is a veteran, and he spent 20 years in the military until he retired. And he said he is a patriot, and he's been told by people throughout his life that he doesn't look American enough just because he's Asian. And so what he did is he actually unbuttoned he was in a suit, and he took his jacket off, his shirt, and he showed the scars on his chest that he had from his time in the service. And I think that really floored everyone and made them realize how serious of a problem this is, because he tried, he did his best effort, and he did a wonderful job of telling everyone that no matter what you look like, you can still be American. We're supposed to look different. And just because he's Asian, doesn't mean that he doesn't love America and that he didn't do everything he possibly could to protect this country.
Absolutely, especially back then when race relations in particular were far worse than they should be today. I mean, we people know that it is morally right to respect others no matter what skin color or ethnicity that they have. It's unfortunate that he even had to do that. Celine, what are some ways that people can combat a lot of this hate? I mean, it's terrible that we even have to have this type of conversation. However, um, it's far too common, it seems like. So, what are some things that you and I can do even to prevent these things from happening?
Well, it's really important that we check in with our Asian American friends, even our Pacific Islanders friends, to see how they're doing, because this is really a tough time for them. So it's okay to ask them if they need anything, maybe to run to the grocery store for them, just to hang out, just kind of like asking them, like, hey, have you faced any discrimination lately? What can I do to help you? The Atlanta chapter of Asian Americans, Advancing Justice, has actually just created a donation page, which is aimed at supporting the victims and their families impacted by the shootings on March 16th. So if you are not aware of that, on March 16th, 8 people, including 6 women of Asian descent, they were killed in shootings at Atlanta area massage parlors. So basically, this white guy went into a parlor and he shot all of these women, and obviously if 6 of them are Asian, it's pretty much aimed at them. And it kind of shows like how, with everything with the virus, how it's dramatically increased since the start of the pandemic. And it's really sad. I started to do a little bit more research into it, and I actually came across a recent study from the Center for the Study of Hate and extremism at the California State University. And I actually found that while overall rates of hate crimes in this country decreased by 7% in 2020, anti-Asian hate crimes surged by 149%. So nearly 3,800 anti-Asian hate incidents were reported between March 19th, 2020 and February 28th, 2021, with women reporting hate incidents at least 2.3 times the rate of men, which just honestly breaks my heart.
Yeah, it's truly a tragedy. Our hearts go out to the families of the lives lost in Atlanta. Um, you know, it's it's hard to have these type of conversations, but they're important to have. Um, it just goes to show that when we uh, teach our children one day about respect and about caring for other people that they don't even know, how this is far too common. I mean, it was far too common back then, and now it's far too common now that this stuff happens. Um, and obviously, it doesn't take much to create a scapegoat. And we need to ensure that we fight a lot of these stereotypes. We need to fight the stigma that remains because, for all we know, as long as this virus is around, who knows how long a target will be on the Asian community's back. We're not sure. Hopefully, it won't be on at all. But Celine, I appreciate you mentioning that, and we'll definitely uh, keep an eye on our Asian friends and members of the Asian community. We'll do right by our fellow Americans, as we should, and being good citizens and being good Samaritans. And in tough times like this, it's always good just to lend out a helping hand. It's always good to be there for somebody who needs it. You never know what people are going through. This was a rough time for everybody, and we're not out of the woods yet, but we'll come out together. So let's just hope that things will get better. The discussion about racism and hate and the attacks on different communities actually segues into the Derek Chauvin trial. It's almost been a year since the tragic death of George Floyd, and Derek Chauvin, who's the officer who had his knee on George Floyd's neck for over 8 minutes, he is now on trial. If looking back to last year after the death of George Floyd, protests erupted all over the world. So the world is literally watching this case. We want to see what will come of it, and whether if Chauvin is convicted, what are the implications of this in regards to police reform nationally, and how police interact with citizens. So there's a lot riding on this case. So Celine, can you give us a recap?
George Floyd, he was actually arrested on Memorial Day of last year on the suspicion that he used a counterfeit bill, $20 bill, at a Minneapolis Cup Food corner store. So the owners of the Cup Food store, they dialed in a on Floyd. If you watch certain footage based on the day from surveillance cameras, from people recording on the street, you'll see that the officers have Floyd to the corner, arrested, not on the ground or anything. However, they placed him into the back of the police vehicle. Upon arrival, Chauvin dragged Floyd from the back of the car, didn't talk to him, just pulled him out, face down on the ground, put his knees directly into his neck. Even though he was not resisting arrest, he, had him down, and people were watching from everywhere. They kind of told people, like, get away, don't film this. And you can literally hear Floyd saying, I can't breathe, for 20 times. He said that, and Chauvin did nothing about it. People were saying, get off of him, like, he can't breathe. Even when he was unconscious, Chauvin did not remove his knee. So that's caused a lot of controversy, a lot of protests in the country, and it's really just a very sad situation and unfortunate for the family of George Floyd.
Yeah, thank you, Celine, for the recap. It is very tragic. The video is very hard to watch. It's definitely interesting to see what the defense will say in regards to the circumstances, because based on the video, it seems that there's no denying that Chauvin had a complete disregard for the condition that George Floyd was in. So, Aaron, can you give us a recap about the opening arguments, particularly maybe what the defense was saying for Chauvin?
Yeah, so they did have their opening remarks, and prosecutor Jerry Blackwell, he is obviously on Floyd's side, and he was saying that basically Derek Chauvin completely betrayed his badge and went beyond excessive force that a police officer should go. And so then you had defense attorney Eric Nelson, who is sticking to his belief of that George Floyd died of an overdose because he had fentanyl in his system at the time. So they were going back and forth, and Nelson believes that this, was not at fault of Derek Chauvin. But Blackwell believes that the Black Lives Matter movement is the one that is pushing for this, and we should be listening to them. And so they have been going back and forth. But I think the courtroom is basically what our country is looking at right now, because there's people on both sides as well. So that's what had happened so far in the trial, and so the two of them have been going at it.
Yeah, that seems to be the only thing that the defense is really riding on, is the fact that there was drugs in George Floyd's system. So I am curious to see how the prosecutors are going to handle that. Aaron, do you think that the prosecutors will simply say, well, the force that Chauvin used exacerbated the condition that George Floyd was in, and thus leading to his death?
I think it's possible. I don't know if it would be the final argument. I don't think that would, make the entire trial end. I definitely think they are just going to completely focus on the fact that his knee was on him, besides the fact that it was on his neck, besides the fact that he had drugs in his system. I think that's just going to be the main focus, because it is viewed as beyond excessive force of a police officer. So, I think they're just going to focus simply on the knee, on the neck, and the drugs in his system at the time will be another fact, but I don't think they're going to focus on it exacerbating his condition.
Right. Well, we'll definitely keep an eye on this trial as it continues. As I've mentioned before, the world is definitely watching. There are so many things riding on this case. Who really knows what could happen if Chauvin is convicted? It'll be interesting to see the response, and if he's acquitted, same thing. There's so many different things that can result of this trial, and I'm sure that's weighing in a lot on both the defense and the prosecution. So we'll definitely keep an eye on it, and we will keep our viewers updated on events that are to come. Ladies, thank you so much for joining me this evening. And before we close out Hawk TV News Online, we are actually going to bring you some sports. Erin is going to lead that, and when we come back from this break, she'll take it away. Thank you for joining.
When we adopt a shelter pet, we discover they're a unique mix of all kinds of things.
Come on, Drew, spot me on this last one. There it is. Keep going with it. Leo.
They're a little bit of a lot of things, but they're all pure love.
Welcome back to Hawk TV News. I'm Erin Mulligan, and tonight I'm joined by Nick Presto and Scott Hosdovic, and we're about to talk a whole lot of sports. So thank you guys for coming on tonight.
Thank you for having us.
Always a pleasure to be here.
So let's dive right into what everyone's talking about, which is March Madness. There's been tons of upsets. We had Oral Roberts making a statement against Ohio State. And then we even had UCLA defeating Alabama, and even Villanova's out now. So we still have schools like Gonzaga that are still going, and people were, super speculative of that. So, Nick, I'll hand it over to you first. What has been the biggest surprise to you throughout the whole tournament so far?
Well, definitely you touched on Oral Roberts. Nobody predicted Oral Roberts to take down Ohio State in the first round. But the team that I definitely feel like needs to get a lot more credit for what they've done is UCLA. They weren't a lock in the tournament when it first started. They were a first 4 team. They had to defeat Mississippi State in order to gain entrance into the actual bracket. And as soon as they did that, they've gone on an amazing run and just took down number 2 Alabama and is now dancing in the Elite 8 against number 1 seed Michigan. This team has been led by Johnny Juzang, and they've done a fantastic job all together. The head coaching staff, fantastic. UCLA is definitely a Cinderella team. I would love to see them continue this run and take down Michigan. But unfortunately, I genuinely feel that Michigan is going to beat them. But UCLA is definitely the hottest team in the rest of the tournament right now, not named Gonzaga. So definitely going to be a fun game to watch, Michigan and UCLA.
Scott, how about you?
I'm going to have to go with Nick on this one. UCLA, especially just being a first 4 team, they weren't guaranteed a spot in the tournament. They had to play for their lives, and they've just been going on a hot streak, and they've just been a really fun team to watch during this tournament. And also, again, Oral Roberts, no one expected the 15 seed to do what they did to Ohio State and then go in and roll and win another game against Florida. So that was insane. And those 2 underdogs are just super fun to watch. And, the madness of March, as they say, was really exciting this year so far. And we still got the Elite 8 to go. So it's going to be fun.
Yeah, I like the word you used, underdog, because there's been tons of them, and nothing pretty much that was predicted is happening. So looking towards the Elite 8, Scott, what do you see happening? What are you expecting?
I'm expecting Gonzaga. Gonzaga's been on a roll. Like they're perfect. No one expected them to be perfect this far, but they're proving themselves. So I expect Gonzaga to come to the Elite 8 and absolutely dominate. And then the other 1 seeds, Baylor, and then Houston. I think Houston's got a good shot to ultimately go to the Final Four. They've been on a roll after they almost lost to Rutgers. Rutgers almost upset them. But then ever since then, they've been on a roll, and they've been absolutely dominating. And, yeah, I think Houston and Gonzaga are going to be really big factors. And Michigan, too. They've been on a roll, and they're just going to – it's going to be fun these next few days and weeks.
Nick, how about you?
Now, there's also another underdog team that we didn't really touch on just before, but I will gladly bring it up right now, is Oregon State. They also came in as a 12 seed, and they have gone on a miraculous run, taking down teams like Oklahoma State, the 4 seed, to get to the position where they are now in the Elite 8. Do I think they have enough in the tank left to take down Houston? I don't think so. I really think their miraculous run might end, but they've been a fantastic tournament team this year. They won their first tournament game in over 30 years this year. So it was fantastic to see what Oregon State does. And honestly, I'll be rooting for them against Houston, but I genuinely think Houston will take that home. Baylor versus Arkansas. I'm going to have to go with Baylor on that one. They've just been an absolute dominant team. Michigan, UCLA, like I mentioned before, I would love to see UCLA win, but I really think Coach Juwan Howard bringing back that really old culture that he had with the Fab Five in the 90s, late 80s, early 90s with Chris Webber on that team. He has changed the culture there in Michigan, and they are a brand new program, and they're looking to really make a run for this title. And then, of course, Gonzaga looking to go perfect. The only team that was close enough to go perfect was Indiana State in 1979, led by Larry Legend himself, and he came 1 game short of going perfect as he lost in the championship game to Magic Johnson. But Gonzaga, they're looking like an unstoppable unit. So I genuinely believe that Gonzaga really has a realistic chance of finishing this off perfect. So I believe they're going to take down USC in the Elite 8 game.
And that game with Larry Bird and Magic Johnson, that is where their rivalry started. So even if Gonzaga goes all the way, maybe we can get another rivalry like theirs for maybe our generation. So it should be very exciting to watch. So moving on to Monmouth, the football team has come out of hibernation, their COVID hibernation, absolutely dominating. They played against Charleston Southern and won 35-17. True freshman Tony Muskett was incredible. Running back Juwan Fari was a standout star. He ran for 119 yards on a career high, 33 carries, and 3 touchdowns. Nick, what are your overall thoughts on Juwan and the game overall?
Juwan played fantastic, and he was looking for that breakout game, especially being behind Petey Guerrero the last year or two. He's been waiting for this moment, and he finally got it, and he delivered. 33 carries, they fed him the rock all game long. 3 touchdowns and over 100 yards. You can't really ask much more from him for that. And I think the main focus of this game was true freshman Tony Muskett. He looked like a seasoned veteran, like a junior or a senior with some of the throws he was making. I was very impressed with his performance this past weekend against Charleston Southern. And I believe that, yes, he is still below the new senior taking over in the depth chart. But when Tony Muskett really gets his chance to shine, I think he's going to lead Monmouth to some real nice future championship opportunities.
Yeah, I love what you said about Muskett. And Coach Callahan even said that he was so impressed with how he was managing the plays, even changing the plays. So, Scott, what were your thoughts on any standout players and the season opener?
I really liked how comfortable Tony Muskett looked in the pocket and passing. He literally just didn't miss an opportunity, didn't miss a beat. He looked like he'd been playing there for years. His first game, he really went out, shined. And then Juwan Fari, he just picked up where Pete Guerrero left off, an unstoppable force, was able to just run right through Charleston Southern. They literally did not have any answers for him. It was a real treat to watch, and I'm really looking forward to what they can do the rest of this 3-game spring season and for the next couple of years.
Yeah, it should be exciting because just like Nick said, Juwan's taking over from Pete Guerrero, and Muskett looks like a veteran. So looking forward to the Hawks facing Gardner-Webb. Scott, what are you expecting and what do you hope to see?
I hope to see that same consistent run game that Juwan Fari brought to the table. And again, Tony Muskett, if he plays like he did, makes those passes like that seasoned veteran feel, and they're going to go far. And if they end up getting the job done next week, the real test, I believe, will be when Kennesaw State comes to town the week after that. They're an unstoppable force. Monmouth had to beat them 2 years ago to win the Big South Championship, so that's going to be interesting. But it all starts next week, and they just got to continue to pick up where they left off this week and continue to establish a great running and passing game.
Absolutely. So moving over to baseball, the Hawks won 3 games in a 4-game weekend set against Manhattan. That's a super promising start. So, Nick, what did you like seeing from the team this weekend, and what were some positives that you took from the 3 games?
Easily has to point out the pitching staff.
Mm-hmm.
The pitching has been fantastic. Monmouth took down Manhattan 3-1, 3-1, and 10-0 in the 3 games. Granted, the offense was, of course, fantastic, but when you have a pitching staff like that that's shutting down teams, holding them to a combined 2 runs in 3 games, that's saying something. If Monmouth can keep up that pitching arsenal that they have had in this past recent weekend with Manhattan, they can really go far this year. Monmouth sports are really looking great this year, and I'm so excited to be a part of it and watch it. I know we all are. So I'm really excited to see what the baseball team can do. It's been a while since I feel like they've had some real serious firepower, and now I feel like this year they're definitely locked and loaded.
Yeah, I love what you said because we didn't have any sports in the fall, and now all of a sudden we have every single sport, and it's so exciting because they're doing well. So, Scott, what are your hopes and expectations for their upcoming game against Siena? Is there any positives that you took? Are there any positives that you took from this past weekend that you hope to see continue?
Yeah, they really had a really good job by the pitching staff, really good job mixing up pitches, really keeping the batters off balance and guessing, especially senior catcher Matt Padre for Manhattan. He's really a leader on that team, and they were able to shut him down. He's really good in clutch situations, getting big hits, and Monmouth was just able to really play really smartly and really mix up the pitches. And then Manhattan was really guessing the whole time. They just really couldn't get any momentum going. And yeah, defense wins championships. And, Monmouth has really been good defensively so far. And that has to start with a great staff. And they've just been really impressing me so far. And yeah, if they want to continue their success, the pitching staff's got to step up their game. And, although hitting's a very important part of scoring runs, it all starts with the pitching staff and keeping the other team off the board. So it's going to be exciting to see what this staff can do in the upcoming weeks.
Absolutely. Nick, what are your thoughts on the upcoming game against Siena?
I mean, Siena, again, is a great team, but the hot streak that I feel like our pitching staff is on right now, I feel like they can continue this success and that huge confidence boosters against Manhattan in all 3 games. They can definitely ride this into Siena, and honestly, they could take them down without an effort. I feel like if the pitching staff comes to play like how they did against Manhattan, Monmouth's got a great shot to rout them to a 10-0 win, something like that that they did to Manhattan.
Yeah, the offense exploded in that game 3. Really, I was really impressed. They played smart, and they were able to get clutch hits at the right time. And they had a firework day on Monday, especially sweeping all 3 games.
Absolutely. Well, with that, that's all the time we have for tonight. Nick and Scott, thank you for coming on. I'm Erin Mulligan, and tune in next week for more Hawk TV news.